Because if you can't do this, why would you try? If you're convinced it is not possible, it's irresponsible to try. It's irresponsible to waste your time and your energy and your focus on something you cannot do. But something you can't do yet, now there's an investment opportunity. Welcome to Your Business is Not Your Boss. I am your host, Geoff Welch, and I help small business owners overcome overwhelm and replace overthinking with intentional action. What is up? Welcome to episode 31 of Your Business is Not Your Boss. I am your host and business coach, Geoff Welch, and today we are going to talk about 4 lies that you've just got to stop telling yourself, okay? So before we get into that, if you are ever feeling stuck, if you are feeling stymied, if you are feeling like, so I call it, up here in Alaska, we have, rocks everywhere in the winter to give us traction on the roads, and those all the time get into buildings and stuff like that. And you'll hit this little rock with your shopping cart. And so you'll be like going through the grocery store, you hit this tiny little rock with your shopping cart, and it just comes to a screeching halt, and you end up folded over your shopping cart. You know, you've taken the handle across your gut, and you're like, ugh. Well, that's a tiny little thing, but it stops the whole works, right? If you feel like that, if you feel like you're stuck and you need someone to help you figure out how to get around an obstacle, sometimes the obstacle feels huge, and what it really is something small. I would encourage you to start by checking out my free PDF called the Anti-Overwhelm Playbook. You just go to geoffwelch.com/playbook and you can grab that right now. A great way to start if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you're a little overwhelmed and you need just a little something to help you settle things down and move forward with purpose. All right, back to the topic of the day. These 4 lies that so many of us small business owners tell ourselves. They're not just for small business owners, but my message here is for small business owners. So that's certainly going to be how these are positioned. So I'm going to go through these with you and give you hopefully some insights that will help you if you happen to be struggling with one of these 4. Okay? Number 1, without further ado, number 1, it will be faster if I do it myself. We've all said it. We've all thought it, right? And certainly there are moments when there's a task that will only ever be done once where it probably is faster if you do it yourself. The problem is we apply that to so many things. We apply it to things that don't happen very often, or we apply it to things that we don't think actually happen very often, but it turns out once we really dig in a little bit and reflect, like, oh, actually, yeah, that actually happens over and over again. The gist is this, right? It will always cost you more time in the moment to document and delegate, right? To write up, and that's really what we're talking about here, right? In order to effectively not have to do it yourself, what you're going to need to do is document the process. Now, document could mean write 3 simple instructions. That could also be 14 pages, depending on what you're talking about, right? But document the process. Here's how you do it, and give it to somebody. Document the process and tell your team where they can find it. So the next time you're faced with it, you just say, hey, I need someone to tackle this. Go check we use Trainual, but check our training documents and take care of this. Every time that it happens again, you start saving, right? The first time, there's a cost, there's an investment, right? A cost is the wrong word. You will spend more time today, but the objective is to save you time tomorrow. Here in Alaska, like a garage is a big deal, right? Having a garage is important when it's 40 below outside. It's nice to have a car that's warm to get into and to be able to back out of your garage that way. And so most houses come with garages, and most of those garages come with garage door openers. And I can remember, I grew up with a garage. I can remember watching on TV, especially old shows, like I would watch Leave It to Beaver and some of those old black and white shows. Every once in a while you'd see somebody that lifted their garage door by hand, and I was like, what is this? Like I didn't understand that at all, right? So for some folks, they might have a garage, but they don't have an automated way to raise that garage like I do. Well, I'll tell you, if you're measuring how long it takes for you to get out of your car one time and open that garage door, drive your car in, and then put the garage door down by hand, always is going to be faster than installing an automatic garage door opener, right? That one time, it takes way longer to install that garage door opener. Except once you've done it, it works for you over and over and over again, right? And so it doesn't take very long of not having to get out of your car and open that garage door before you're winning, right? The first time doesn't feel like winning. And that's the idea, right? What do you need to do to take this process? It seems like it'll be faster if you do it yourself and turn it into something someone else can do for you over and over again. All right, number 2, busyness is a badge of honor. Man, I think this is very common among is type A, like, do we talk about type A anymore? I don't know that term comes up as much, but highly motivated, highly driven, like productive people. The badge of honor sometimes is how hard we're working, how long we're working, how much effort we're putting in. It's for some of us, it's the funnest thing in the world to be like, oh man, I worked 75 hours last week. I worked 100 hours last week. For others, it's, I did twice as much as anybody else. I'm more efficient and I just was cranking things out and I was, but we get caught up in this idea of how much effort, how much product we produce, like how much we do. And I think that the trap here is none of those things are bad. It's not bad to spend extra hours when you need to spend extra hours. Sometimes that's what's going to have to happen. It's not bad to take a little pride in saying, wow, when I am doing the same kind of work in parallel with someone else, I'm faster than they are, right? I like, to me, that makes some of the work fun, is to be able to say, can I be a little more efficient? Can I be faster, right? But that has to be put in the proper bucket of that's fun, that's a pastime, that's an aside, not that's how I feel good about myself. Not that is fundamental to how I determine whether I'm being effective and productive or not. You're going to have to do those things sometimes, but ideally what you're looking at is building a business that serves you and not the other way around. Right? So it's easy for someone with that mindset to fall into the trap of being a slave to their business, of being someone who their business runs their life, instead of saying, I use my business to make my life possible, right? And I put my business in the place that it belongs for me. Everyone's going to have a little different idea of that, but where it belongs for me so that I can feel good about what it does for me, okay? So sometimes it's going to require some extra effort, extra hours, extra, brute force. Sometimes that's going to happen. But in a lot of cases, and I would say likely in the majority of cases, it's going to require you to delegate, so that you can rest, so that you can dream big dreams, so you can take your kids to the park one afternoon. Like, all of those things are important too. All of those things are valuable. And yet sometimes when we stop to learn, when we stop to plan and to strategize, and we're not just cranking things out, we're not just running as fast as we can, we feel like we're not doing what we're supposed to do, or we're not doing enough, or that we need to do those things on top of all of the other hustle and all of the other grinding. Sometimes you got to grind, but I think the objective should be not to wear busyness as a badge of honor, to be busy sometimes when the situation requires it, but then to figure out, how do I build systems? How do I position my business so that it works for me? You on top, the business is subservient to you. Okay. Number 3, nobody knows what I'm going through. Man, I get this one. I feel this one because I have a lot of well-meaning friends who have real jobs. Right? I'll probably put those in air quotes, right? Real jobs. And I think that a lot of, they're smart people, right? These are not people who are not sharp, right? And yet, if you have never owned, operated your own thing, you just don't get it. And similarly to how I don't get some of their issues, right? I don't understand some of the things they deal with because I do not have those experiences. Man, running a small business, owning a small business, driving something like that forward, it's a unique beast. And so it can be so easy to look around us at all the other folks that think they get it, but don't really. And we insulate ourselves. And instead of looking for ways to connect, looking for ways to be more understood or to find the people who understand us, we get into this sort of head down, blinders on mentality. And we feel like we're alone in this. We feel like we've got to carry this and no one else understands it. Man, as a coach, as somebody who works with small business owners all the time, the most fun thing about that for me, aside from actually helping people and seeing them make progress, is I get the broader perspective of having talked to so many of them and to realize that the names, the places, the dates, like there are these things that change, but the themes, like the obstacles and opportunities that these folks are wrestling with, they're all so similar. And they're similar to mine too, right? Like when I look at this, I'm like, oh, well, the good news is I'm not alone in this challenge. I'm not alone in trying to wrestle with this thing. The bad news is I'm not nearly as special as I thought I was, because I really thought that, man, my problems were unique. And man, I'm having to deal with something that no one else understands. Lots of people understand you. So I would encourage you to find those people, find other small business owners. I know that, depending on your industry, there may be certain people that's not safe. It's not smart to talk to because you're going to share something that they could share with somebody else, right? But ideally, you can find someone from a radically different industry, someone from maybe even someone who isn't in your geographic location, right? With the world that we live in now, it's easier than ever to be connected to people who are not local to you and aren't your direct competition and don't know the people you know and all that good stuff. Find those people so that you can share your stories, so that you can hear their stories. Really, it's not all about you talking all the time. It's about learning about their experiences as well, because you find comfort in the fact that, yeah, no, I've experienced that. Well, here's what I did. Let me see if that helps you. And if not, at the very least, you know you're not alone. If you can't find those people, if you struggle to do that, if you're not the kind of person who's like, I'm not I don't like networking events. That stuff is work for me. I love one-on-one. I love meeting new people, but I don't always love the formats, the forums maybe, in which that happens. So I think I've shared recently that I made this new friend playing pickleball, and it's the cutest thing in the world, because as an adult, it's sometimes hard to make new friends, right? How do you find new people to be friends with? Because you don't go to school every day and like, hey, we both have a blue shirt on, let's be friends. Like that's how it happens when you're in third grade. When you're older, it's a little more challenging. So if that's challenging for you, just don't forget, man, this is a thing I do, right? Like I work with people to help them broaden their perspectives and understand how they are not unlike other people dealing with these similar things. So I can provide that perspective if you can't find it somewhere else. Okay, you know where to find me. And four, the fourth lie to stop telling yourself is, I can't do this. I'm very, very certain this happens to me all the time. I have an idea. I'm sure there's a word for it. I'm sure that someone has coined a word for it. But I have an idea that is completely original to me. When I think of this idea, at least I believe it is. I don't know there's a reference for it. There's nothing that it triggers in my mind. There are plenty of things that I'm happy to rip off, right? Plenty of things that I'm happy to be like, I'm going to borrow some of that, and I'm going to borrow some of that, and I'm going to put it together in a new stew that's all mine. And, I'm not a big fan of stew. So that's pretty special. But once in a while, I come up with something and I'm like, I'm the first person that's ever had this idea, right? I'm talking to my wife, or I'm talking to a friend, I'm talking to somebody, and they say, oh yeah, no, I read that book. I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't written a book. And they say, no, there's a book that's about that, or that was in a movie, or and it's like this deflating sense of like, Did I know that? Like, did I hear it, experience it, have it wash over me some point? Or did I just also happen to have a unique idea that another unique person happened to have and they just got to it first, right? So I'm pretty sure there's a book about the word yet. I haven't read it. It will probably sound like I've read it because I'm guessing what I'm going to say is very similar to what they're going to say. But when Maddie, who is now 17, was growing up, one of the things that we talked about a lot was shifting from using the words I can't do this, to using the words I can't do this yet. Because when you say I can't do this, you are declaring some sort of infinite declaration. This is a thing that is beyond my capacity to do ever. There is no circumstance in which I am able to do this thing. I can't do this, right? And invariably, when you are 6 or 8 or 10, you're growing up, you're encountering so many things that you are learning, and they are difficult at the beginning. And when you try to do something for the first time, surprise, surprise, there is a lot of opportunity to fail. And so this child would try it once, maybe try it twice, and would be frustrated by the inability to do it or to do it well, and would say, I can't do this. And so, I go into like dad coach mode. I try not to be a coach at home, right? Like not in a professional sense, right? Where it's like, tell me how you feel about that, right? But I try still though to say, how can this be an opportunity to learn something for a small kid, right? And so invariably this child who could not do it would figure it out. And the next day they're like, yeah, I know how to do it. Riding a bike was like that. Riding a bike was the most frustrating thing in the world for about half an hour. And then she figured it out, and it's like she's a genius, right? She's like, oh yeah, riding a bike's no big deal. Shifting from I can't do this, which is a declaration and seems permanent. What you're telling yourself is, this is who I am. I am a person who cannot do this. Shifting that to I can't do this yet changes the entire thing. It says, today is frustrating. Today is frustrating because I want to be able to do this, but I can't do it yet. And what you are saying when you say that is, maybe tomorrow, I don't know, maybe next week, I don't know. I don't know exactly how long this takes, but I do know that I'm capable of learning and growing. I do know that I'm not the same person today that I was a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. I do know that I have the ability to change what I am capable of, to improve, to learn things tomorrow that I don't know today. And when you set that like focus in your mind, this idea of yet, this idea of there is something I can move towards and improve upon, it changes the whole game. It's remarkable to me, the difference, because if you can't do this, why would you try? If you're convinced it is not possible, it's irresponsible to try. It's irresponsible to waste your time and your energy and your focus on something you cannot do. But something you can't do yet, now there's an investment opportunity, right? There is an opportunity to say, I can't do this right now, but if I give a little effort, if I give a little time, if I give a little energy, if I give a little focus, I might be able to do this next week. I might be able to accomplish this thing. I know we got this camper last year, and it's a lovely camper. Great, but we still did some projects on it, right? I wanted to upgrade some things and to customize a few things. And I can remember very clearly a handful of moments along the way where I'm trying to, the campers are small and you're reaching for something and you're trying to like hold on to one tool and use another tool to like grab the other. These things that I'm not always the most like dexterous. Sometimes for a drummer, which is funny, the drum playing the drums is all hands and feet, right? It's all coordination. And yet I drop stuff all the time. I tend to be sort of like clumsy with my limbs. And there would be a moment where I was so mad, like this isn't possible. And I would just take a breath. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. If I have to try it 1,000 times, I'm going to get it. And the difference in the progress you make when you are angry and upset because you can't versus when you are convinced if you just try it one more time, you're going to get closer. You're going to get better. It's intense. So 4 lies stop telling yourself. It'll be faster if I do it myself. No, it won't. Once is the best you're ever going to make that be true. If you ever have to do it more than once, you're almost certainly wrong. It will not be faster if you do it yourself. Busyness is a badge of honor. No. Busyness is something you're going to have to do sometimes, but the goal is to put your business to work for you. The goal is to delegate so that the work gets done, the goal gets accomplished with as little effort from you and as little busyness from you as possible. That's winning. 3, no one knows what I'm going through. Yes, other people do. Maybe not the people closest to you, maybe not the people you know today, but there are people who understand and who can empathize with your situation. I certainly am one of them if you need that. And number 4, I can't do this. You almost certainly can. Maybe you're going to run into something that you can't, but adding yet, I can't do this yet, fundamentally changes your experience with something new that you're learning, a new path you're going on. And growing a business, turning a business into something that works for you, that is a circumstance that is fraught with the danger of failure, the danger of not being able to do something because now something new is being demanded of you. So, yet is all you got to add on there. You add yet on there, and now you are progressing. Now you have an opportunity instead of a definitive failure. That's it from me. Before I go, don't forget that Anti-Overwhelm Playbook exists, and it is available to you for free right now at jeffwelch.com/playbook. If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling a little mired, if you're feeling like there's too much on your plate to make the progress you want to make, grab it today. All right? Okay, don't forget, you probably have more lies than this you tell yourself, but these are the 4 that I wanted to kind of highlight today. And remember, your business is not your boss.